Hey everyone, this is Christy Strauss, critic and operations manager for filminquiry.com, host of the Go On Scare Me podcast, and I'm here today to talk about Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse. I love this film. It was one of my favorites of 2019, one that was unfortunately mostly snubbed by the Oscars, but I won't delve too far into that. But I truly think it's a wonderful piece of filmmaking. It's transportive, it's engaging, and just a wonderful addition to the genre. So today I'm going to talk about just 5 of the ways that this film creates a successful horror. There's truly a very thick atmosphere that's created with The Lighthouse, something that allows it to stand on its own 2 very original feet. And it's textured and visceral. It makes you feel as if you're party to the story. And I think that really starts with the look, and that starts with the stripped down, seemingly simple monochrome execution. How do you craft a successful horror? Is there one particular way to pull off such a feat? As eclectic as the genre is, the simple answer is no. However, when certain key ingredients come together, something truly original is born, and that is undeniably worth exploring. Robert Eggers managed to do it in 2015 with The Witch, and with his newest, The Lighthouse, he does it again. He continues to be one of the most interesting new voices in the genre, as he challenges our expectations and initial ideas of what horror could be. Without a reliance on jump scares or special effects, he strips terror down, and us by extension, to its barest form. And by all accounts, if one was to go by description alone, this film doesn't necessarily inspire something new or particularly horrifying. In 18th century New England, 2 lighthouse workers set off to a lonely island for 30 days, and over time they spiral into madness. Sounds simple enough, right? Now, the plot doesn't necessarily have to be extravagant to make an impression, and this one definitely does. Eggers loves to dive into his movies with the look of a horror, but the heart of a dark fairy tale. And this is as evident with The Lighthouse as it was with The Witch. He does his homework, he ensures authenticity when it comes to history, and he loves exploring folklore and mythology, which he frequently utilizes in his work. Here's 5 of the ways that Eggers creates something uniquely and innately terrifying in The Lighthouse. The dark and light of it. The film is shot in black and white, making the stark moments sharper and the terrain, big rocks, roaring waters, somehow even harsher. But it isn't just the lack of color that matters here. Eggers uses the shadows, both in appearance and metaphorically, to his advantage, playing on our fears of dark corners, secrets, and paranoia. The film is disturbing on many fronts, one of which is the insanity that becomes more prominent as the movie courses on. We all have our dark sides, and those of each of the characters expressed here are shown. There's also terrific use of light, both to eliminate specific sequences and their intensity, and also a way of scratching the surface, showing the truth as much as it can be. Sometimes it's a lantern brandishing Willem Dafoe's slightly maniacal expression, or just a flickering candle. Nothing is without purpose. There's also the mystery of the light within the tower itself, that Willem Dafoe's character claims, adamantly, to be the only one who can care for it. The allure and the eventual reveal of its power, even if there's ambiguity involved, are as equally as bright as the grayish waters are formidable. Besides, there's definitely enough color within these 2 characters. And the film really wouldn't work without its 2 powerhouse performances by Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, who effortlessly bounce between humor and mania. The performances. It's a limited location, so the performances have to be amazing to carry the story in combination with the dialogue they're delivering. Robert Pattinson is the young new worker Winslow, or Thomas Howard, discouraged right away by his boss, the crotchety Thomas Wake, played by Willem Dafoe, a man heavy in his belief in curses and duty.
You clean the brass and the clockwork, and you tidy up the quarters after. There's well more to be mended outside. Do you hear me, lad?
Yes, sir.
Aye, sir.
Both don a New England 18th century seaman sort of language, and from the start of their relationship, it's clear these 2 are going to butt heads. However, their relationship takes a lot of dips and turns. One day, they can be singing together drunk, the next they'll be running one another into the ground. Tensions are high, and they raise as the movie continues. Each of these actors gives their entirety, which it's a tragic travesty that neither one were nominated for Oscars. But they really give their all to the roles, enveloping these two lonely, angry, and unhinged men. They're impeccable. Robert Pattinson again proves his acting chops as he begins the film reticent, but eventually becomes as commanding as the veteran actor Defoe himself. The two characters spar, bouncing between old friends and bitter enemies. And The Lighthouse really leads an assault on all the senses, amassing a almost fever-like dream journey into psychological terror. An attack of the senses. Beside the terrific acting and the look, there are a lot of other senses that sweep you up. In a lot of ways, it's as if you're the third party on this desolate and dreary island. The sound and score are incredibly effective. The soundtrack weaves in and out in the background, sometimes penetratingly present, and other times distant hum that you become accustomed to. There's a cacophony of sounds. You're never not hearing every potential groan or creak, animal or mechanical moan. It's comparable to a hammer, driving these events into our brain. Whether it be a seagull cawing or a horn blowing, it is one of the many details used here to put the audience into action, so to speak. It's key to note that the lack of sound at times is also just as powerful. This push and pull that Eggers does, much like the aspect mentioned with the lighting, really keeps you off balance. When the sound is suddenly cut in a moment of rage or surprise, it's like it takes your breath away too. There are also moments and descriptors that make you imagine the smells. You can sense how dirty these men are and how damp and dungy some of the areas are. And on top of the sound and smells that basically radiate from the screen, you also feel the isolation, the sensation of being trapped. And by entertaining all of these senses, The Lighthouse makes you complicit in its horror and keeps you on edge. Am I gushing? Maybe I'm gushing. The cinematography. This is a visually arresting film, and it is gorgeously captured. There are a lot of still moments where the camera sneaks into a frame or lingers a moment longer on a strange but intense image. There's a lot of use of tableau shots, and the nearly square aspect ratio shot in close quarters is a sort of vice grip on the scene, so it's squeezing as you watch. In truth, the claustrophobic insistence with each shot makes the countdown to these characters' insanity that much more pressing. It's a very brutal looking and feeling film, and how it's framed is a big part of that. When there are moments of real disturbing imagery, the decisions made on how to capture it make them especially effective. It's those sequences that'll linger long after the credits. And honestly, it's the culmination of all these points that I've been making that really make it so penetrable and so long-lasting. Can we trust Robert Pattinson? Is his character really reliable? I'm not so sure. The unreliable narrator and multiple perspectives. Things aren't always as they seem. The story unfolds from Robert Pattinson's point of view, but we can't really trust him. This becomes more obvious as the movie continues and things become more inciting. Like any successful psychological thriller, there's an element of suspicion here. You feel empathetic towards the character, stuck in this monotonous job with this daunting boss. But then, is he? How do we know Defoe's real temperament? He plays him differently depending on the scene, or rather Pattinson's frame of mind and the fragility of his psyche. And as things get worse, they're starving and stranded, the mystery of what's really going on continues to build and come to a head. It's truly compelling work. So what's going on here? Who can we believe? His sanity is a tightrope, and by the film's end, many things are still uncertain. But that element is always clear. The perspective on the film can change from viewer to viewer, so there's no wrong or right answer here, as Pattinson's eye line consistently wavers. One thing's for sure, The Lighthouse endures. There are a lot of nuances and moments of surprising humor and unexpected violence that I could dive into, but this is truly a film that needs to be experienced firsthand. Thank you for listening. This is really just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much to appreciate and dissect with The Lighthouse that I could really talk about it for hours. And it's a wonderfully made, written, performed film that seamlessly mixes mythos and horror As I said, it's one of my favorites of last year. If you haven't seen it, definitely seek it out. And if you have, maybe revisit it and appreciate some new details. And feel free to leave a comment if there's something that you feel passionately about that I missed. As I said, there is a lot going on with this film, a lot to unpack, and I would love to hear it. So thank you again for watching.